Regardless of how you feel about Call of Duty as a franchise, you can't deny the impact Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare had not only on that series, but on gaming as a whole. Can you beat Call of Duty 4 without taking any damage? This challenge works the same way as every other without taking any damage run. I play through the game as you normally would, but anytime I take damage, I reload to the most recent checkpoint. I'll get more into it in a bit. The first level of the campaign is F.N.G. and has you playing as Soap Macintosh, an engineering student who dropped out of school or some such nonsense. Shoot the gun, learn that bullets can actually penetrate cheap pieces of wood, you can explode a watermelon, accidentally knife someone, then accidentally do it again to someone else, do something similar to a third person and a fourth person, and you're outside. Lots to do. That's a lie. You can't get hit by a truck, and you can barely jump over someone who's doing push-ups. Captain Price makes fun of me, and it was my turn for the CQB test. Fun fact, hitting someone with a flashbang counts as a team kill, and you have to actually grab the rope. The test itself wasn't anything crazy complicated. Shoot the targets, throw a few flashbangs, sprint to the finish, all standard Smash Bros speedrunning tactics. Then we finally get to the first mission. Board a ship near the Bering Strait and look for information. With this being the first mission to contain combat, it's still pretty handholdy. The first few enemies you encounter are just crew members who can't fight back. After taking damage for the first time, my team and I proceeded inside the ship. Now that there's relevant footage, I can explain a bit more about this playthrough because it's different than most of my other no damage runs. In Skyrim or Fallout, you can save at any time and revert back to that save when you take damage. Kill a guy, quick save, then if you take damage you don't have to kill him again. Call of Duty 4 is different. It has a checkpoint system. You either make it to the next checkpoint, or you keep trying to get through a certain segment until you do. The other slice of significance pie is that this is a first-person shooter, so combat will be more frequent and intense. There are no talk to this guy and pass a skill check to avoid combat options here. After fighting through the ship and opening a shipping crate containing a manifest, we began escaping the ship. Everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. I couldn't tell if I took damage when that explosion went off, so I reloaded to the last checkpoint to try again. Because existence is pain, we had to clear out the room again. This is a frequent and indefinitely annoying problem. The silver lining is that I got my hands on a mini Uzi, the most neato mosquito firearm of all time. Fireship exploded again for the first time, I got a checkpoint, and played the waiting game. If you're too slow, you die. That's why I could never run a marathon. My vision was a bit obscured as I made my way to the chopper. I don't think I took any damage, it didn't look like I did. One of the rapscallions untied my shoes while I was distracted with the firefighting, which is why I almost slipped off the helicopter and fell into the ocean. Call of Duty 4 officially begins now. Next comes a cutscene. Once I got into the car, I knew something was wrong. The guy in front had my Uzi. That was the first sign that life had gone askew. The next hint that something bad was about to happen was when a Desert Eagle was put in my face. Hey all, Soap here and I'm still not dead. We're back in the thick of it. Our mission is to rescue a loyalist. I drop-scoped this guy, we met up with a sergeant in the field, I tested the C4 to make sure it wasn't defective, and fire rained down from the heavens. After the helicopters showed up, I began worming my way across the ground and taking damage. The laser sight and lots of cover makes this not at all difficult. The same goes for taking out the profligates from a cliffside with silenced weapons. It's like playing chutes and ladders in a wheelchair. Everyone else is fumbling around with ladders and chutes while you take a ramp up to the top and eat ice cream. I got stuck in this building for a little while because rather than doing it properly, I tried to go full-on Rambo and kill all of them in a blinding display of combat prowess. Captain Price got in my way one time, so I hugged a grenade and sent everyone on this field trip to hell. Several attempts later, we arrived at the final house, and one guy brought an aimbot because he sucks at the game. No matter what I did, he hit me the second he turned around the corner. Gaz or Price killed him for me, we escaped with Nikolai, and I got crushed by the helicopter. The second time around, I wasted no time by throwing a grenade into the room to take out the cheater. Didn't get crushed by the chopper, we left the area, and it was time to take control of Sergeant Paul. My first task as an official virtual Paul was to parkour on a few cars and stand close to an explosion and effectively die. Inside a building, I tried several times to take out everyone with my pistol to prove how cool I am, to both my parents and my therapist. It never worked, which is fine, I don't need their approval. Using a pistol when several other superior options are available is a frequent and recurring theme. There's just something so satisfying about using a handgun when everyone else is using a rifle or a shotgun or a sniper or an RPG. That said, using the M4 does make it a lot easier. But what makes things even easier is a Dragunov I found on the second floor of a building. Did some pretty sweet quick scopes I did. After spending longer than I should have on what were probably infinitely respawning enemies atop a building across the street, I took out the shotgun and blasted my way through everything in my path. We breached the door to the television station, I didn't die that time, and I worked my way through the building over and over and over and over again. The issue with this area is that there are enemies all over the place, and sometimes when you're clearing a room, you just miss someone and get shot in the face. That's a common problem we all face at some point. Eventually, I started sitting in the back with a sniper rifle while my teammates did most of the hard work on my behalf. It took more than several minutes, but I killed a lot more guys outside from the rooftop before figuring out where I was going. I dropped a flashbang on accident, and we missed our target. I did, however, use the power of movie magic to imagine I was somewhere other than Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. With that mission over, Operation Black Sabbath was next. This one takes place at night and makes good use of the night vision goggles I got out of my cereal box this morning. I missed a guy when I didn't check the corner and let myself slowly get shot to death to prove that mistakes have consequences. For some reason, it took me a few attempts to get through here. Most likely due to the rascals across the way trying to stop me. I don't know if you can get through this section without using the turret because I didn't try. The turret puts you at risk. Sure, it's a powerhouse of a weapon, but you can't move. I tried to throw a grenade, which bounced off a window and killed everyone in the room. That's how I want to go out in real life. The men on the highway above were supposedly not my target, took them out anyway though. Believe it or don't, the shotgun from 150 feet away didn't work. The javelin did, and with effectively infinite ammo, all the tanks were destroyed. I got a virtual trophy to put on my virtual wall to make my virtual parents virtually proud of virtual me. I then arrived at the bog, a field with a tank towards the center and almost dead bodies on the other side. I tried rushing in with my shotgun, but there were too many of them, meaning I took damage pretty quickly. A flashbang provided enough momentary blindness to let me slip by and destroy the AA gun. Planting the IR beacon was tricky though. There were what I could only assume were turrets firing on the position, making it difficult to get to the yellow marker to plant the beacon. At one point I almost had it, but my slippers got caught on cement. Annoying, but not impossible to do. Once the beacon was planted, a helicopter showed up and saved the day. The 4 remaining Americans reunited at the tank, and I was back to Soap. Nikolai seemed a little annoyed that we got blasted out of the sky. I somehow didn't die, and I had a new handgun, a 1911. Score 1 for America. This mission, despite not having any silenced weapons, is all about stealthily escaping. Once we hit the deck in the field, things got dicey. Probably didn't help that I shot the helicopter the second before I got a checkpoint. This was the first area that was legitimately difficult. The issue here is that there are a lot of enemies to deal with, and you have nowhere to go while you wait for a door to the house to be opened. After dying half a dozen times, I got a handle on the situation and began taking out those who emerged from the truck within seconds. If you're quick, you can kill them right as they get out of the truck before they have a chance to attack you back. Then there's the guys rappelling down from the chopper. I tried several times to kill all of them, but it proved too much. So I flashed them and retreated to the house with Fisher-Price and kept pressing onward with our escape. I learned my lesson about fucking in the fields and chose not to shoot at the soldiers on patrol. Then we got compromised anyway, and I had no choice. The area just beyond the greenhouse wasn't too bad. Take it slow and steady like an angry beaver, and you'll get through it without too many resets. Some fool left a stinger with infinite ammo in the barn, not knowing that it was inevitable that I'd find it. The chopper takes several shots to destroy, and from what I could tell, it's kind of up to chance if you get shot by it. A friendly neighborhood AC-130 leveled a small town, and we reached the extraction point. The next mission, Death from Above, has me taking control of an AC-130 gunship from 150,000 miles above Earth. This one has no relevance to this challenge. You can't take damage, so you just play through it as you normally would. Back in the boots of my favorite Paul, we're defending the tanks from invading forces. There's a lot of cover in the area that you can pop out from behind to take a shot at a watermelon. Inside the town was a lot of trial and error. It seemed like the enemies respawn infinitely until you push forward and reach an area or a checkpoint. But you do have a lot of weapons at your disposal. Ammo might as well be endless with how many guns you can find on the ground. There are just a bunch of enemies in your way. Unless you're hiding somewhere, there are about a dozen different places you could be shot from. A lot of the time, I found myself not really worrying about taking damage, just rushing inside a building to take out as many people as I could, while also learning about where they're coming from. The next time around, I'd have a better feel for the building, and after a while, I'd get through it and move on down the street to do it again. But sometimes you just get unlucky and get shot the second you're out in the open. Things got easier once I found an RPD next to someone whose brain I just turned off with a bullet. The RPD is a stupid powerful weapon. It fires absurdly quickly, has a huge magazine, and can kill in fewer shots than your standard assault rifle. It's not as cool as an M9 or 1911, but the trade-offs are worth it. A friendly tank used the power of love and friendship to destroy an enemy tank, and that level is over. The good news is, Sunglasses Guy has a nuke. The bad news is that Sunglasses Guy has a nuke. This next mission was infuriating. Any mission where you can't control where you go is going to be a nightmare. You might be thinking that this would sort of be the same as the last mission I just described. Trial and error until you learn where the enemies are. Well, you'd metaphorically be correct. The problem is that there are enemies all over the place. Tanks that take several shots to kill, a gun that heats up faster than an oven, and a limited field of view. Miss one target, and a few seconds later you won't be able to hit them, but they'll be able to hit you. I had to restart this mission several times because I just couldn't get through the opening of it. At one point, I thought taking damage from a specific tank might just be scripted and unavoidable. It's not. What I eventually did was take out the tanks on the back right as quickly as possible, carefully explode each RPG soldier with a well-aimed shot, then fire at the group of tanks to the left as soon as possible. After that, it's sorta smooth sailing. Shoot at anything that looks like it might consider moving, and you'll be alright. Not long later, the recon team was in need of assistance. A large amount of evildoers arrived on the scene to steal my Arby's coupons. Obviously, I wouldn't let that happen. Back in the air, I accidentally shot another helicopter out of the sky. In my defense, it was an honest mistake. With the news of a possible nuclear detonation having just entered my skull, we landed in a heavily fortified area to rescue the downed pilot, and I proved that I'm more stupid than I could have possibly imagined. Instead of rescuing the pilot, I kept trying to kill the dozens of soldiers advancing on our position. When I inevitably died every single time, I realized that my objective was the pilot. At the last possible second, I got shot in the fanny and had to do it again. We fled to the air, and the sky was engulfed in a beautiful orange fireball. Us Pauls don't die easy, especially the virtual ones. Sergeant Me survived the helicopter crash. I fell off the end of the chopper and landed on my broken ribs a few times before I decided to just wait at the end of the ramp and watch the mushroom cloud until something fun happened. It always hurts when a fellow Paul dies. Rest in peace, pussy. Back inside the soap, we were searching through a bunch of buildings in search of some guy. I got a nice close-up of a grenade as it blew off my limbs, and had not really a hell of a time getting through this. I had a heck of a time, I guess. Same as every other mission. Fire from all directions, enemies that seem to respawn until you advance forward. The standard gaming trope of the first attempt at something being the most successful appeared briefly. I ran up the stairs and took out everyone near a water tower as well as those inside a building. Then I took damage, and every other time I tried that same tactic, it was a spectacular failure. Eventually, I just went around the right side of the map and worked my way into the buildings from there. I also had this weird issue where I would respawn and be confused about which way the door was. Like, it happened every single time. The night sight probably would have made this easier, but to be honest, I prefer playing without it unless it's so dark I can't see a sausage. On the edge of the searchable map, I ran past the truck that was aflame. I knew it was gonna explode. There was no reason why it wouldn't, and it did. Good news is we got Al-Assad. He did not last very long in Captain Price's daycare center for probable terrorists. Then there was the obligatory flashback mission. This is probably the most recognizable mission from Call of Duty 4, and is also the mission best suited for a no-damage run. That's true for the most part. Captain McMillan wanted us to go in silently, which I decided against almost every single time. In the pretend to be a warm section, I got too close to a tank and got our cover blown. After resetting, I decided to venture into the radiation to see how long I could last. Roughly 30 seconds is the answer. Worming my way through the field felt like it took forever, and it was tough to fight my urges to open fire after the tanks had passed us by, just to see what would happen. I then witnessed the most intense firefight of all time. This is Call of Duty at its best. When gamers say Call of Duty is the best Call of Duty, this is what they mean. Captain Mac and I snuck our way by some of the dumbest soldiers in the history of virtual soldiers. I shot this guy off the stairs and got a pretty weird animation from it, and then came the dogs. You can just ignore them, but that's no fun. I shot it, the floodgates broke, and every dog in the known universe swarmed Captain Mac. He's somehow consumed enough Mountain Dew to become a captain and can't even kill a single dog. Yeah, this game blows. I also accidentally killed him when saving him from one of the dogs I unleashed on him. It took far longer than it should have to do this, but it was so satisfying. Without the P90 I'd found, this probably wouldn't have been possible. We got into position, I shot off a guy's arm, and the great escape began. This wasn't easy. We were in enemy territory and they sent everything they could after us. Just like in other situations, I found that running off to the side worked best in getting around them. Then Macmillan got shot and I had to carry him, and you can't fire while carrying him, which adds another layer of shit to this diarrhea pie. The good news is that there are fewer enemies sent your way to compensate for having to carry around a cripple. This mission ends with the Battle of the Ferris wheel. You're given 6.5 seconds to prepare, then an army is sent after you. I planted some claymore seeds around the cars, didn't really do much. I tried to take out the guys dropping in from the helicopters, which is tough when there's multiple helicopters and a dozen buttheads running out from behind a building. Thankfully, there were a few checkpoints. I managed to get Mac on board the chopper, and we escaped, just in time for the flashback to be over. Heat is up next, and this is the 13th mission in Call of Duty 4 and the 15th mission to involve escaping from somewhere. Friends of Sunglasses Guy are sad that we killed him and are assaulting our position in search of heads that can be mounted on spikes. You're given a lot of neat toys to play with: RPGs, heavy machine guns, sniper rifles, a minigun. Defend the position, fall back, defend the position, fall back. That's what this mission really is. The minigun sequence could have been tricky, but I used the recruit difficulty to my advantage and killed everyone before they had a chance to attack me. I used 4 conveniently placed C4 detonators to, get this, detonate C4. Then came the final stand. Defend back at the barnyard from Dag and his gang until reinforcements can arrive. There's a javelin and multiple tanks encroaching on our land, and it's up to me to destroy them. With the inability to fire at anything other than a tank, while the javelin is equipped, the best strategy is to hide behind one of the barn buildings and line up a shot through the windows. Once the tanks were gone, I could use the D-pad to deploy air support. Then we had 240 seconds, or 240 seconds for those of you overseas, to get back down the hill that we just came from. I did some no-scopes with the RPD, but largely ignored the enemies on my way to the landing zone. We escaped, and the cutscene revealed to everyone not in the game that the role of Sunglasses Guy would fall to the one-armed bandit, calling himself Hermans Achieve. I should probably know how to pronounce that name, since the game says it a lot. Oh well. You can tell he's the bad guy because the game tells you. I used the pistol alongside my companions to murder everyone camping out at this gas station. Captain Price seemed taller than usual. It took us 2 hours to change uniforms and climb a ladder. And Zakiv's son arrived in an armored envoy. What surprised me more than anything was how closely that truck was following behind the tank. In a shocking twist, Zakiv Jr. took off on fruit by the foot instead of letting himself get captured. Getting through the small town he's gone into was a pain in the ass. Not necessarily difficult, just time-consuming due to the number of enemies. Then, it was time to get serious. I swapped out my RPD for a nearly empty M9, and used it to take damage up ahead over and over and over again. But like I said earlier, there's something inherently satisfying about using a handgun when everyone else is using rifles. You know what's not so satisfying? Bouncing a grenade off Gaz's head and taking damage. The only slice of convenient pie in this area was just up the stairs, where a bunch of M9 ammo was located. There were several resets in the alley up ahead. I got tickled to death by a mounted turret in the apartment. I let my skull get caved in by the butt of a gun after taking damage, and the kid offed himself. Next was a joint operation between American and British lads. Griggs is missing. He was kidnapped, he fell off a helicopter, something happened. This first area should not have been difficult. Stick to the tree line, take out everyone before they see you. Yeah, it took me a few attempts. Several more than a few, actually. Griggs is most likely located in one of the buildings. But I can't just search them all. Me being the player lacks the ability to open doors. There's a knob, you have to twist it, it's a whole process. Instead, I follow Price as he opens the doors for me like a true gentleman. With Griggs back in the squad, us bros were a true group of bros again, and we destroyed a giant tower with explosives like only true bros can. We entered a tank holding yard where they had conveniently placed a few explosive barrels, never know when you'll need one, and eliminated all the non-bros in the vicinity. I channeled my inner Black Ops 2 pro gamer by mindlessly throwing C4 and detonating it, getting a kill with unmatched skill. We met up with the Americans, and a pair of missiles were launched into orbit. The end is near, I can tell by the number of campaign missions remaining. This being one of the few remaining missions, it's not an easy one. That's one part of it. The other part is ya boy still being a moron. There are tanks and such rolling into the area. They need to be destroyed. But I, being the super smart man-child that I am, ignored the tanks and concentrated on the people. I also tried on more than one occasion to throw down the world's saddest excuse for a smoke grenade and run past the tanks. Did not work. After about 7 minutes, I figured out what I was supposed to do, destroyed the tank, and pressed onward. Then I got a checkpoint right as I took damage. Like the exact second the damage marker appeared on the screen, meaning I had to restart the mission. Luckily, it was pretty early on, but it was still annoying. It took a few minutes to get back to where I was a few minutes ago. That's how time works. And we arrived at the missile birthing arena. Clear out the bad guys, defend the position, fall into the hole to see what mysteries are hiding within, rappel inside, and you're done with the mission. No fighting in the war room is the penultimate mission of the game and is rather simple. Stop the end of the world. This mission was a little rough, but in the good way. I prefer these levels where you're in tight quarters. Makes it easy to learn where the enemies are, and doesn't give them a lot of opportunities to be somewhere else after you take damage and reset. The 15-minute timer also adds some urgency to the mission, which is fun. This is probably my favorite mission in the game, at least for this run. I really only had trouble in one spot. Roughly 2 minutes in, just past the stairs, is an area with 3 paths. I tried all 3 multiple times because I failed a lot. No matter what route you take, the enemies from the other will try to stop you. I'd switched out one of my M4s for a shotgun early on and used it to basically cheat in close quarters. You don't really even need to aim, just look in someone's general direction and they'll die. Oddly enough, I did the same thing in high school. All it took was me looking in someone's general direction and they'd be so uncomfortable that they wanted to die. With 9 minutes to spare, we entered the war room. I entered the codes and saved the day. This game isn't called Call of Duty 4: The Legend of Soap for nothing. Then came the escape. Nothing too insanely difficult. It still took a few attempts, but we took the elevator, cleared the car room, and caught a ride. The last mission has finally arrived. The name Game Over is a reference to the fact that this is a game. This mission was bad. All of it was awful. Right off the bat, you're stuck in the back of a truck and have to take out everything that's after your Lucky Charms. Aiming on the back of a moving vehicle is less than easy. Then there's someone with an RPG who fires said RPG at RP me. Every time I thought I killed the guy who had it, I was wrong. Until I wasn't that one time. In typical gamer fashion, the trucks managed to veer off the road and explode to death. Then things took a turn for the worst. There's a helicopter that rises over the mountain, and the second it emerges, it fires and you take damage. I tried a couple dozen times to line up a rocket shot to hit it, but I never could. I tried crouching to avoid the damage, but it never worked. Eventually, I gave up and kept going, because I had a hunch that there was a scripted event that would take place with that helicopter. Also, I ran out of RPG ammo, so, yep. I watched a few different videos on YouTube of this mission, and all of them had that moment, no matter what they did, where the helicopter flew away and takes out the bridge. I think that there's no way to not take damage right when that helicopter first appears, but damage is damage. After somehow not falling off the bridge, we must hold our position against an onslaught of enemy forces. The first wave from the truck and helicopter are difficult, but not impossible to kill quickly. There's a small window of time where the ones who jump from the truck are vulnerable and can't fire, and the ones rappelling from the chopper have the same opening as they make their way down. Before long, a bunch more show up. I tried hiding at the edge of the bridge, but it's not a viable tactic since the tanker explodes. On what was probably my 25th attempt, I found an M60 on the ground by the first truck and used it to fire at everything that moved from behind the cover of a car. Then, the unthinkable happened. Griggs forgot to put on his helmet and paid the ultimate price. Bad guy arrived in typical villain fashion, then help arrived. Price slid me the gun. I finished what Call of Duty 4 started, and did not beat Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare without taking any damage. Wait, we're not done yet. There's one mission left, Mile High Club. This took me about 10 minutes to beat. Pretty much everything I said about no fighting in the war room applies to this mission. The only difference being that any damage means the mission restarts from the beginning, which is hardly a punishment given how short it is. There's nothing too difficult about it. You have effectively infinite ammo, and can shoot through some walls and objects. As long as you're paying attention, you can locate the VIP and shoot the wrong guy. There's a checkpoint right before the door opens, so all that's left to do is jump out the plane within 30 seconds, and you're done. And that's going to do it for this video about whether or not you can beat Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare without taking any damage. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything, leave a like. Leave a dislike if you didn't enjoy the video or didn't learn anything. Thanks to the Champion tier supporters as well as the other channel members for helping make videos like this one possible. Join the Mitten Squad Discord server through a link in the video description. Follow me on Twitter @Mitten Squad. My name is Paul of Mitten Squad. Have a wonderful day.